can't even make this stuff up anymore. Hellcat Magnum video, I came to the assumption that the transfer case had failed because I took the car for a test drive and I was getting a very strange popping and binding feeling while I was driving the car. So I took the car back to the junkyard. I didn't drive it very far. I drove it down the block and drove it back, put it on the lift, and the transfer case fluid didn't look the best. So I changed it and thought it was worth a try and it might resolve some issues or maybe point me in the correct direction. And I also thought maybe the front differential had failed because Trackhawks have a lot of issues with front diffs, or maybe the brand new drive shaft I put in the car was out of balance, or maybe it was binding, or something weird was going on. Well, now I know exactly what was going on because I found the issue for the popping and binding, and it actually caused a lot more damage, finding out the hard way. And it was because of the axle I got from Dodge. It was the 27th replacement axle. Because of Dodge's quality control, and actually caused some damage to the subframe. The damage to the subframe is mostly cosmetic, but it's just kind of irritating, and it's a lot of quality control issues. So luckily enough, we don't need a transfer case, and we just need a diff and a driver's side axle once again. Hopefully we can get all this stuff resolved. What I'm gonna do today is, since I went over to Dodge and it was really unclear which fluid you're supposed to use in the transfer case, the dealership, if you look on the service bulletin under the VIN number, it shows ATF +4, and then it also shows like this European shell transmission fluid. So I'm gonna just end up using the incorrect fluid anyway. So I'm going to just put the 8-speed automatic transmission fluid in it because it uses the same clutch packs as the transmission, or I would assume. I'm going to just assume and just keep being wrong. I assume that it's going to use the same clutch packs as the transmission, so the 8-speed automatic transmission fluid should technically be compatible. Don't quote me on this because I'm sure it's going to blow up anyway, and it's already bad. So let's throw some fluid in it, see if it resolves our issue with the binding and popping. And it's, like I said in the last video, I'm 100% sure it's not, but it's worth a try. Damn it. The transfer case now has clean 8-speed automatic transmission fluid in it. It should be better than the fluid that's normally in the transfer case. So like I said, on Dodge's technical bulletin, you look up the VIN number and it shows ATF +4, which a lot of people were saying that the dealers were putting in, and it was wrong for Trackhawks and Durango Hellcats. But then it also shows below it a European spec shell transmission fluid, automatic transmission fluid. So at this point, it almost seems like it really doesn't matter, and hopefully the clutch packs in the transfer case are similar to the ones in the transmission, and that fluid should perform better. But don't quote me on this at all. I'm going to go try it. We'll see if she still pops. If they're still popping, I might try to mount a camera under the car to see what's popping, what's happening when it's popping, and we'll just kind of go from there. But hopefully, you know, this resolves the issue. I know a lot of people that on Trackhawks and Hellcats, they have valve body issues and they change a filter and the tranny fluid when it looks completely disgusting. I'm guessing it doesn't smell burnt, but usually it fixes the issue and it shifts perfectly fine from there on out. The new axle's in and everything is torqued and ready to go, so there shouldn't be, hopefully, fingers crossed, any more issues. And this actually went together really easy, so I didn't have to really worry about pulling this clevis off to get the axle out because I made it so much larger. Like on the Trackhawks, Durango Hellcats, the axle won't come out because the clevis is too thin because the boot hits it. So, and then putting it in, you don't want to ruin the boot either. I know people just stuff them in there, but makes it a ton easier doing it this way. Now it definitely did it again. I'll just back up. It should make the same noise. It's fucking loud. Like, you'll be able to hear it.
But I mean, you can see that when you put it in reverse, the boot, it like came out of the boot and twisted.
Oh, fuck.
So, there you go, Dave.
Thanks. Well, I figured it out.
Yeah.
Can't even make this stuff up anymore. I guess it was an axle sound. The axle that I got, it's missing one of the, I'm gonna have to see if it's missing one of those. I can't believe this. I'm gonna throw the other axle that leaks back in it because it was perfectly fine. This must just be like a defect axle. Maybe it's not a transfer case issue. Just have to watch those hooks when it goes back on the thing. Finally put the Keller frame in the trailer, as well as a whole trailer full of Hellcat Durango and Hellcat Charger and Challenger doors and a bunch of other parts. So that's going to be great. And I was planning on driving the blue Hellcat Magnum over to the new shop, but I'm waiting on a new front diff and a driver's side axle. So as you guys saw, that driver's side axle only had 2 of the like ball bearings in it, and it popped out and it messed up the diff and that axle. So we're gonna tow it over there because I'm trying to get out of the shop as soon as possible. It's like your weekly ritual now, moving. It's a difference. Yeah.
You ever got caught filling up another dude?
You want a semi bath? Dude, look, it curves to the left. So I was able to get a bunch of stuff moved over to the new shop, and the blue Hellcat Magnum is now at the new shop, which is awesome. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to drive the car over there for obvious reasons because the axle broke. Well, it didn't really break, but what ended up happening was it was a defect. It only had 2 of those like roller bearings. They're not really ball bearings, but it only had 2 of them. So it pretty much just came out, but it also ended up breaking the differential. The front diff broke because it got kind of pulled out. And I think it just kind of, once it came out and came around, the axle was no good. It kind of dented the subframe a little bit, which was kind of unfortunate. So I submitted, the dealer actually submitted a ticket to I don't know if it's Dodge corporate or whatever, or parts, but hopefully this gets resolved, because, you know, it took me, I think, like 27 driver side axles to get an axle that didn't have cracked boots. And then the axle I finally get that doesn't have cracked boots only has 2 of the bearings in there, and it breaks a bunch of other stuff on my car. Luckily enough, I wasn't going very fast, but I guess it's just a quality control thing now. You really have to pay attention to the parts that you buy and that you're using. And I don't really know how you would tell if that axle was good or bad missing a bearing, because the rubber boot's going to hold everything nice and true. So just be cautious, be careful. You know, if I was driving this thing, if I actually got on the highway, because the first thing I heard was popping. I thought it was a transfer case or the differential. The fluid in the transfer case didn't really look that great. I changed it, and then I go to drive it. I pretty much pulled it out of the shop, pulled it forward. I heard it pop, and I was like, well, maybe I'll just go back. I backed it up to go back into the shop, and that's when it came out. So, you know, quality control, I think, is really lacking in a lot of companies, not just Dodge, but we'll get this resolved. You know, I also have a built engine that I'm going to put in the car. I need to get some CNC heads, get a built tranny, transfer case, and then a bigger supercharger. I have the larger cam already, and the engine and all that stuff is already on the way. But by the time next racing season comes, we should have everything ironed out so we can do some crazy stuff and actually have some fun with the car. But projects like this, you just kind of have to work through them. You're always going to have issues, and I think we're working through them pretty well. And also, I finally have the fan shroud designed, so I'm going to be using, since I was never able to get the Hellcat fan to work properly, I'm going to use the Hellcat Durango fan motor and the fan blade. I designed my custom fan shroud. So the fan blade is actually, I think, 3 or 4 inches larger. So it should pull, and I think the motor's a little bit better in the Durangos. So it should pull a little bit more CFM, which will be great because it'll cool down everything a lot better. And we'll get all that stuff resolved and ironed out, since the engine has to come out of the car and the transmission and all that stuff is going to go back in the green Durango. We'll put the built engine in it and all the built parts, and we shouldn't have any more issues after that. But I'm going to end the video here. If you like these videos, make sure to click that subscribe button, throw a thumbs up, throw a comment below. As always, see you guys next time.